Welcome to Triggered, brought to you by Midway USA. I'm Michael Bain. Of course, we're at the Secret Hidden Bunker in the Rocky Mountains in Dragon House Studios. And over the last couple of episodes, we have been talking about guns that you can take with you, possibly long guns that break down, a lot of different issues that are on people's minds. And I know that from the email I've been getting. So we did a deep dive back into the Triggered archives to find an episode that we did on survival guns. So once again, we're looking at things that break down that you can carry with you. Let's take a look. Spring, of course, here in the Rockies, and in spring, a young man's fancy turns to survival. Today we're going to talk about survival rifles, something I don't think I've ever talked about either here or on the Downrange Radio podcast, but it's kind of an interesting topic. This, of course, is the prototypical survival rifle. It's a Henry U.S. Survival AR-7, modeled after the Armalite AR-7. It's designed by Eugene Stoner. And when we say survival rifles, the original meaning of that was this rifle and the ones that were predecessors to it that basically were for pilots. So if a pilot was downed in remote Alaska and they maybe had to forage for their own food, they had some way to do so. So now when I think about a survival rifle, I'm thinking in terms of .22 long rifle because of its sheer versatility. I'm also thinking about small, simple. In the case of this particular gun, it's the ultimate origami gun. Before we start playing origami with this rifle, here's a question. What are these things for? I mean, if you're not a pilot and you're not going to be down in the remotest Alaska or even out there in the mountains just outside the window of the Secret Hidden Bunker, why do you need one of these things? Well, there's a number of uses for them that I think are really, really interesting. Obviously, survival. You have one of these in your car breaks down some godforsaken place like, I don't know, New Jersey, then, you do have a rifle, which is a little bit more easy to protect yourself with sometimes than a handgun. Secondly, for backpacking. If you're out in the woods, and there have been times when I've been out for a long time in the woods, and it's a handy thing to have a rifle, especially if it doesn't weigh a lot. I think this weighs like 4 pounds. The Henry weighs about 4 pounds, something like that. So if you should become lost and you eat your 400 power bars and you think, I got to go kill a squirrel, you can at least kill a squirrel without having to throw a power bar at it and knock it unconscious. A third thing that I think a lot of us don't even think about is non-permissive environments in some other states. In fact, interesting story about this particular AR-7, it was a gift to me from my father after I started traveling to a lot of states, especially the Northeast, where there were draconian laws about handguns, not so much .22 rifles. .22 rifles often slide under. So I would travel to places where I really couldn't carry a handgun. And my father said, well, hey, a magazine load of .22s is better than harsh language, which is true. So he gave me this gun. And in fact, I have traveled with it at various times to other foreign countries, like New Jersey, like New York, like Connecticut, like Rhode Island. And this way, you get to your hotel room, you got this thing put together, you got it loaded up, and it's a simple matter of being able to protect yourself in some really awkward situations. And I think I mentioned there have been times as a traveler, business traveler, where I've been in hotel rooms without any firearm where I sincerely and profoundly wished I had like a rocket launcher. Guys beating on the door, I know you're in there with my wife. And I looked around, and the only thing in the room with me was a really bad television set and a lamp. And as he's beating on the door, I finally said, he says, I'm coming in. I said, no, 230 grains of Full Metal Jacket is coming out. And the guy screams, he's got a gun, and runs off. What I had was a table lamp, which I had to actually unbolt from the table. It was that kind of hotel. But anyway, those are your kind of basic uses. A backpack gun, a gun that if you are traveling in the back country, you're flying in the back country, I have friends, Tom Gresham, his own plane, or if you're a prepper. These are super guns if you happen to be a prepper and you've got, say, I'm not going to say a bug out bag because here's why, kids. I live in a place where people bug out too, and in fact, there's no welcome mat here. So if you plan to bug out into the Rocky Mountains, keep in mind the Rocky Mountains is full of people like me. So, but another kind of bag that is probably more important is what I think of as a get-home bag. If you travel a lot in a car, you even travel a lot on an airplane. And can you get home? First time I thought about this ever, my good friend Walt Roush at 9/11 was in Texas at an event, I think a Smith & Wesson event in Texas when 9/11 happened. And no planes were flying. So Walt and a friend took a rental car from Texas to his home in Pennsylvania. And he goes, the only thing I had was a snub and 5 shots. He goes, I will never let that happen again. So just those things, something to think about. This guy, like I said, it is the prototypical survival rifle. And as I said, it's origami. It's about as basic a rifle as you can get. You can take it apart. Dogs can take it apart. At least a reasonably intelligent spaniel can take it apart. You get a little screw thing here. This unscrews. And luckily, Henry now makes them in insane colors. I never understood why they made these things in silver. It's truly, truly weird. Then you take this back off here. Ta-da! And everything actually slides in. You can slide this all, right, this bolt lever goes down. The barrel slips right in there somehow. There's a perfect notch for the front sight. Barrel slips in there. You put another magazine in there. Put this guy right back on it. You know what? It floats. It's a neat little gun. Fair warning, 8-round magazines by a dozen. It's just like the old military 45 ACP magazines. You know, we'd buy them out of Firearms News, Shotgun News, for a dozen for 20 bucks, of which 7 would work. These are finicky about magazines, dreadfully finicky, so there's a fair warning. I want to step now to what I think of as my favorite, my very favorite of the takedown rifles, the backpack rifles, the survival rifles, and you're going to recognize the name on it.
Years of laziness led to this very moment. Looks like Stan's gonna need some help. Let's get some organization in here. Some lighting, some security, some monitoring.
That does look nice.
Imagine that! There's more room in an organized vault. Keep your valuables organized, safe, and secure with Lockdown. Secure your lifestyle.
When we talk about bug-out rifles, get-home rifles, survival rifles, backpack rifles, this is my unconditional, absolute favorite. And I always think it's important to tell you guys what I actually spend money on here. This is a Ruger 1022 Takedown Light. You know how much I like 1022s. You've seen a bunch of them here. You know I sit on the board of directors of the Rimfire Challenge Shooting Association. I think a 1022 is a rifle that every single person in the United States should have, maybe 2. Well, a few years back, Ruger decided to make a takedown version where you can take the rifle apart and it goes into its own bag. And then about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, they began making the Takedown Light version, a little bit lighter gun for a backpack. Let me show you this really quickly. This always works except when you're trying to show it. Here's how you take it apart. There's this little lever right here. You push that forward, you turn clockwise, and voila, it comes apart. It goes back together the same way. It's kind of nifty. It's really easy. It's a smart design on it. As I said, it's light, it's polymer stock. You'll see here, this is the stock that they recently added with their PCC carbines. This whole back end is replaceable with a little bit higher comb. So if you're using an optic on this sight, on this gun, then you can put up the little bit higher comb on it. I probably will do that because, as you can see, you know I couldn't leave well enough alone. It does have an optic. It's got an outer impact mount, which is a direct mount on top of a 1022. I like those a lot. I've used them on pistols. I've used them on rifles. I think they're great. You can also get it comes with a Williams rail. You can get a Picatinny rail from people like Taxol, Volquartz, and Custom if you want to go that way. I like the outer impact direct mount because it's a little bit lower. What's sitting on there is a Burris Fastfire, which is one of my go-to sights. They are bulletproof sights. You know, they're inexpensive. They have huge battery life on them, and I don't know if you can see this sight a little bit. It's battered around and scratched up. It's been through the mill, and when I push the magic button, the red dot still comes on. Now what you can't see here, but you know this is exactly what I'm going to do to a rifle, is as soon as I got it, I checked the trigger, and the trigger was like, I don't know, 6 pounds, 7 pounds, 8 pounds, 9 pounds. Anyway, it was somewhere up there in a range that I didn't like. So the first thing I did was I ordered a Ruger BX trigger for the 1022. Now there are any number of companies that make custom triggers for a 1022. My competition guns all have Volquartsen trigger groups in them. My competition rifles. Tactical Solutions, Volquartsen Timney makes an excellent 1022 trigger. Kidd are like top of the line 1022 triggers. But here's the deal. You can get a Ruger BX, which will take you down to about 1.5 to 2 pound trigger pull, pretty crisp, for 79 bucks. When you start getting into the high Zoot triggers, you're going 250, 280, even 300, 320. So you could basically get a Ruger BX trigger, which is 95% as good as a super deluxe custom trigger, for 1/3 of the price. So that's one of the reasons I went with the BX trigger. It has better release on the magazine. It's still got Ruger's Rube Goldberg bolt release system, but hey, you can't have everything. Other thing I added, a Tactical Solutions muzzle brake. Not that the 22 has massive recoil, but it helps a little. And I found them useful on rifles. I've found them useful on pistols. We've talked about muzzle brakes on 22s before. So to me, this becomes a really viable choice. And there are a couple of other things I want to show you, things that come in the bag, and then we'll talk about why I think this is an even better choice than any other semi-auto 22.
This week's Trigger is brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Taurus USA, designed to protect. Rock Island Arms Corps, solid as a rock. Volquartsen, engineering the world's finest rimfire rifles, pistols, and parts. And Franklin Armory, making some of the most innovative guns in America.
So this is the bag it comes in. This is the a higher comb stock that I mentioned to you. It's just simply one screw, and to be able to place this on the stock here, which I think is an excellent idea. It comes with a regular 10-round magazine, your ubiquitous Ruger rotary magazine. But there's a couple of the reasons that I think the Ruger is the best choice, and that is, what if you have to use this gun as a self-defense tool? Well, no one will tell you that 22 long rifle is the optimal self-defense cartridge. However, if it's what you got, it's what you got. I'm not nearly as picky as some. I've actually read some gun writers who go, oh, you know, only a fool would carry a 22, you know? That's not true. Sometimes it's what you got. Let's say you're hiking, you're backpacking, and you know, you're not carrying a handgun, but you're carrying this in this pack. And you might need it at the tent at night, something like that. Well, to me, here is what makes the Ruger superior to almost any other 22 quote-unquote survival rifle. And that's this magazine. This is a Ruger BX 25 round magazine manufactured by Ruger to Ruger standards and Ruger quality. You can also get this magazine with this X2 setup, which is basically two X25s together. Goes in like here, flip it over, goes in like there. So when you've got a 25 round magazine, let's say just hypothetically, you have 25 rounds of CCI Mini Mag hollow points, and you're having to use this rifle as a self-defense tool. You're not looking at one-shot stops. What you're looking at is quantity. I can assure you, absolutely assure you, if you ever have to use this rifle in defense of your life, and you fire, say, 15 rounds of CCI Mini Mags or any other quality hot 22 hollow point, the person is going to reconsider their course of action. Also, that leaves you with 10 rounds for the head, if that's the way you got to go. when you're talking about using a .22 for self-defense, more is always going to be better. Here, you've got 50 rounds at your disposal, 25 rounds at your disposal. One thing I want to even add is that should you live in a state with magazine restrictions, and I have these magazines years before Colorado's went in, but this is a good option for you. Basically, Tactical Solutions offers it. You can essentially bolt 3 10-round magazines together. And they go in the gun and then flip the release, in the gun, flip the release. What you have here is an easily accessible 30 rounds. Once again, that gives you the option in a self-defense situation. No other self-defense, quote unquote, or no other self-defense rifle, survival rifle has these kind of magazines at these really inexpensive prices. You'll also note that this has a convenient spot for your suppressor. Obviously, these guns are threaded. A suppressor makes it even that much more useful. You've got several pouches here that you can use to hold ammunition. All in all, you end up with basically a light, easy-to-use package, and that can carry with you. What's wrong with it? Well, only one thing. Only one thing that's wrong with it from my viewpoint is it doesn't have iron sights. Backup iron sights, redundant sights. Is the fast fire going to work? Yeah, sure. I mean, that's, I've had that fast fire for 10 years and battered it around. It's a go-to sight. However, all things aside, it would be really nice if I had a set of rifle sights on this barrel. And you're going, well, you can get them installed, yeah. Or you can go to Tactical Solutions. My friends at Tactical Solutions, they make a Ruger takedown barrel that comes with rifle sights on it. Once again, it's also threaded. It'll fit your suppressor. So what you'll end up with is a redundant sighting system. You've got magazines from 10 rounds up to 50 rounds that you can have on your person. You have Ruger quality. This is a great gun. And if you're driving long distances or back in the backcountry or you're backpacking in the backcountry, man, this is a heck of a choice. And if it's the apocalypse, you're going to want to have this really, really badly. I'm Michael. The Ruger 10/22 Takedown to me remains one of the greatest guns in the world. It's that kind of gun that everybody should have. And by the way, last week we talked about guns with bird's head grips, Rugers. Well, this week Midway has those on sale. You can get Ruger grip frames again, and sometimes that's hard to get at Midway at a discount, including those bird's head grips that you guys like so much. For next week, we're going to continue on a theme, and we're going to take a look at this. Actually, we're going to take a look at all the other parts that make up this. A rifle that's legal everywhere. I'm Michael Bain. This is Triggered, brought to you by Midway USA, and you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on michaelbain.tv. You can find us everywhere. We'll see you next week.